trauma bonds. Got close off of battle scars. Equal pain, so we think it's equal game. Same team, but it's different hearts. Same goals, but it's different shots. Thought we was winning the same. Turns out you were just running me game. Should've known, but I couldn't guess it. It's a damn shame.
Welcome back to another episode of Hoop MCs. You're joined here by myself, Hassan, and my co-host, Naseem. Naseem, what's going on?
What's up, man? How are you?
Pretty good. For this episode, it's a little bit different than what we've done in the past. We're here joined by a special guest, Anthony Duckett. What's up, Anthony?
How you guys doing?
Doing
Pretty good, man. How are you?
I'm all right. Just trying to brace for some potential earth-shattering news from Woj or Shams here soon.
Yeah.
Every time I get a notification from one of them, too, my heart stops, honestly. And it's always just like a random retweet. It's nothing even like any news whatsoever.
Yeah, I think I saw the Frank Kaminsky news. I saw like a notification from Shams, and then like my heart skipped a beat, and then it just turned out it was just Frank.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let me go ahead and tell the audience just who we're talking about. So, Anthony, go ahead and just give us a little bit of a background of yourself, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I cover the Rockets for Space City Scoop. I'm the site expert there, so I pump out quite a bit of Rockets content. I also cover the Rockets for Clutch City Control Room, which I'm a member of a contributor, podcast host, or co-host at times as well. I used to cover the Texans for Toro Times, and I still follow them, even though it's painful to say that right now because they suck. But I've been a Rockets fan since – I've been following the Rockets intently since probably 2002. So ever since we got Yao was when I first started to really watch and pay attention to the Rockets. And then it really ramped up when we got Harden back about eight years ago or so. So that's 18 years of watching and following the Rockets. And I've been covering I started covering the Rockets as far as from a content standpoint in June of 2019. So about a year and a half, I've been actually writing, or I guess you would say covering the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's it called? A little fun fact. Anthony's actually my boss at Space City Scoop, and I remember when you joined Space City because I was a writer as well, and maybe like 2-3 months before you, and then I just kind of never kept up, and so I got bounced out, and then not too long ago I hit you up in the DMs on Twitter asking you if you guys are looking for more contributors. So, yeah.
Yeah, glad to have you back, man. That's awesome. You've actually pumped out some awesome content as well. I think one of those did like 35,000 views.
Yep. It's the Tyler Herro piece trying to convince Rockets fans, but nobody's on board, man. Nobody.
I still don't know why everyone's against Tyler Herro, man. I've really come to terms with it. Like, he's the person I want, man. Forget Ben Simmons. Give me Tyler Herro now.
Hey, Naseem, hold on. We have actually this guy right here who's one of those people who are against Tyler Herro.
Oh my God. Okay, I would like to hear why you're against it. I respect your opinion, but I just want to hear it.
So the reason why I say that is because when they say the Rockets want, they've been saying franchise cornerstone, or like a young star. And, I mean, there's not a knock on Herro. It's a small sample size. He only played one season. Now, he had some great games. I know he had a 37-point game in the postseason. And I know he could score. He shot, I think, 39% from three or 38.9% from three. But I think that all-around player, Ben Simmons is a better all-around player. Now, Herro's a better scorer because he can shoot, and obviously Ben Simmons can't shoot. But Ben Simmons is a better defender. I mean, he's all defense. Now I understand the logic that, well, you have John Wall and Ben Simmons, so in essence you have 2 point guards. But Ben Simmons could play point forward. He could also set screens, cut to the basket as well. And you don't really know how long you're going to have John Wall. I mean, there are people who think that we're going to go the Chris Paul route OKC did and allow John Wall to play here for 1 year, show he's healthy, and then flip him, a year from now after his value's back up. I don't know if that's what they're going to end up doing. I don't know that that's the right call, but I just think that if you have Ben Simmons being able to dish it to Christian Wood and or Boogie Cousins, I mean, that his skill set is not what Tyler Herro has. Tyler Herro can shoot better, but Ben Simmons is able to obviously facilitate. He can play defense. He can crash the glass. I think he's a better all-around player, and he's only like 4 years older than Tyler Herro.
Yeah, I definitely do agree that he's a much better overall player, and I'm not discrediting that at all. I just think in terms of flexibility, and also Tyler Herro's probably my favorite player for some reason. I don't know why, but I would literally prefer I want him in Houston just because I love the guy, but I also think like surrounding Tyler Herro with John Wall, Boogie, and Christian Wood is like a very interesting combination. It kind of reminds me of like the Miami type vibe in a sense.
Anthony, let me ask you this, man. So you made great points. I don't disagree with any of them, but let me ask you this. Can you give me a fatal flaw in Tyler Herro's game right now?
Defense.
Oh, okay. So let me follow up with this. But we lived through James Harden, right? He's obviously notorious for that aspect. But at the same time, who do we know that's a superstar, or just in this case, in this example for Tyler Herro, obviously we're thinking about the future of him potentially being a superstar. But since when did we start caring so much about a two-way player for a superstar? For a guard, at least, for a guard.
Wait, what you ask now?
So I'm basically saying with Tyler Herro, obviously we know a flaw is his defense, right? And what I'm trying to get at is I'm going to bring it up with Ben Simmons. Obviously, he has a fatal flaw, which is shooting. But for Tyler Herro, who's a shooting guard, and we lived through James Harden, his poor defense, even though I would attribute James Harden with like just a lack of awareness, whereas Tyler Herro, it might just be, just skill wise, he just might not be skillfully a good defender, but he'll at least try. You know what I'm saying? So basically I'm saying why aren't we looking at the fact that like with Ben Simmons, his shooting flaw, and I'm talking about like it's huge. If you look at the stats, it's a huge flaw of his. Why isn't that ever like brought up in terms of comparing Tyler Herro and Ben Simmons?
That's a good point. I mean, I just think that Ben Simmons and Herro have such different skill sets that it's really kind of tough to compare the two of them. But I think that from a standpoint of, I mean, even if you throw in Duncan Robinson and Herro, I don't really think that's, for me, I look at it as what you're getting rid of. First of all, in a superstar trade, the team with the best player, they lose the deal automatically. It happens, right?
Yeah.
If you trade James Harden, even to Philly, you still lose the trade because Harden is by far away the better player, right? But I feel like a Miami deal, if it was, what they're saying, what would it be? Herro, Olynyk, Duncan Robinson. I mean, I still think those are spare parts for the value of James Harden. And the main thing is that Philadelphia, I mean, Daryl Morey doesn't care about draft picks. He'll trade. I mean, I'm sure Daryl Morey would trade his dad for a first round draft pick. So you can. I mean, I think you can realistically get 3 first round picks out of that, which is also part of why I think the Philly deal would be better. Which I know that's more than just we're looking at just Ben Simmons individually. But I just think that overall, the deal you would get from Philly would be a better deal from Miami. Now, if we're looking at Simmons or Herro, I mean, one of them, I think we're still going off potential. Herro definitely we're going off of potential because one season, small sample size. Ben Simmons, I mean, he's probably more of a finished product, which, given the shooting gap, that could be concerning, right? He's not going to learn how to shoot 40% from 3 now. I think Ben Simmons, although he's only 24 years old, I don't think you just all of a sudden magically become a great shooter, right? So, I mean, we're looking at, I guess right now, what's proven and more of a finished product versus potential. And potential and upside is always intriguing because you don't know. I mean, who knows? Herro's trajectory might surpass Ben Simmons, right? But I just think that from an overall player all around, I think Ben Simmons is a better. But then you throw in those draft picks, I think that makes for a better trade.
Yeah. The only thing is, I mean, Morey has said it time and time that he's not willing to throw in Simmons. And then he came out the other day and he said, if he does throw in Simmons, we have to add more pieces. First off, that makes absolutely zero sense. So that's why I think this Philly deal is like almost impossible at this point.
I mean, so part of that, I think that, Daryl is a great GM, so he knows how to negotiate. A lot of it, when it comes to trade talks, you never know. A lot of it's conjuring. No, we're not going to trade him. Oh, yeah, okay. And then, Daryl Morey said it about Chris Paul. We're not trading Chris Paul. And then next thing you know, he says Chris Paul and a boatload of draft picks for Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, that is true.
Anthony, you brought something up I wanted to talk about. You said Ben Simmons is a finished product. Now, when you say that, do you mean okay, well, we know, is his ceiling essentially reached? Is that what you're kind of saying? Or are you saying, he can only, are you saying he can only go so much farther than where he's at now?
I'm saying, so his stat line has been relatively the same for each of the last 2 seasons or so. And I think that while he's only 24 years old, he definitely can get better. He definitely can get better. But I just think that the type of player that he is now is, I think he kind of is who he is. He's not going to become a sniper, right? And I think that what you get with him is what you get. Now, granted, it's his age. Like I said, he's younger, 24 years old. At least younger than Harden per se. But I just think that what we've seen, the type of player that he is, I think that's who he is. He's gonna be 17, 8 and 8 guy, maybe 18, 8 and 7. Somewhere around there. That's what you're gonna get out of Ben Simmons, I think, which is okay.
Do you think Ben Simmons has the potential to be a top 5 talent in this league 3 to 5 years from now?
Top 5.
When we look in the short-term outlook, which is 3 to 5 years, obviously we got to talk about the Lukas of this league. So I think Luka's going to dominate this league probably in 3 to 5 years. He might be the best player in the league. You still have Giannis, who's maybe 25, 26. So I think he can still be in that argument. I don't think you can consider LeBron or KD at that point. I think they'll be at the tail end of their careers. So you still got the Trae Youngs out there. I don't know. I'm thinking about Jason Tatum, obviously. So do you think Ben Simmons could be a top 5 talent?
He could be. 3 to 5 years. You mentioned. I think I would say Ben Simmons would be more top 10 in 3 to 5 years because, like you mentioned, Tatum, Luka, Giannis. We'll see what happens with Zion. Who knows with him?
He's looked good so far.
What's that?
I said he's looked good so far.
Yeah. So Giannis. Who knows?
Booker.
Yeah. Booker. I'm forgetting about him. Who knows what happens with Ja Morant? He played really well his first season as well. I think I'm more comfortable putting Ben Simmons top 10 as opposed to top 5.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with him on that just because it's clearly a shooter's league and we've all seen it for the past decade, and I feel like it's only going to stay like that until something drastic changes. So unless you're a shooter or you're freaking another reincarnation of LeBron, you're not going to be a top 5 player without a 3-point shot.
But even with LeBron, at least LeBron he's never been a poor shooter. He's at least kind of a respectable jump shooter, that obviously he doesn't default to that. My problem with Ben Simmons and what I'm scared of is the fact that he just doesn't develop anything else. And when it comes to playoff series, the defenses are smart, they're going to adapt and they're going to force you for example, to take uncomfortable shots.
Yeah.
So whereas I'm more leaning towards Tyler Hero just because I've seen similar stories. James Harden, six man, out of OKC. He's obviously evolved to way much more if we're looking at now, and that's largely because we allowed him to take more shots. He had a much larger pie of the offense, and so I look at Tyler Hero and some of the intangibles oh, this guy has big balls. Like, he's not scared at all. He kind of has that it factor. And where we've seen already with Ben Simmons, I know he's still young. Like, he's only 24, 3 years played in the league. But he's already had, questionable moments in the playoffs where it kind of seems like, okay, will this guy ever be able to perform up to the expectations of us fans?
Yeah. I don't want to compare him to Giannis, but I mean it's almost like a Giannis situation. I mean the Miami defense, every time in the fourth quarter in the playoffs, they just locked in on him basically driving in, and that shut his game down completely, essentially. So I think it's just if Ben Simmons pulls a Giannis and can't develop a jump shot, it's pretty easy to contain heading into crunch time. And that's my biggest flaw with Giannis as well, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, from a standpoint of shooting, that's not even a debate. I mean, Hero is probably better shooter than Ben Simmons will ever be. But I think that when it comes to all around, I mean, Hero, you could make the argument that Hero would play alongside John Wall better, right? Because John Wall is obviously a passer, more of a pure point guard, traditional point guard, and that he can, set himself up. But when you look at what all, I mean, if whoever's brought in will be somewhat replacing the Harden role, not being asked to be James Harden, but taking on some of that duties. And from a standpoint of, if you bring in Hero, I mean, all he's going to really give you is scoring, right? It's not like he is going to be a, even moderate defender, or I mean, he's not.
Can I?
Or a playmaker.
Can I go ahead and? Yeah. Well, I wanted to disagree right there because I actually think Tyler Hero can be a playmaker. Like, he's more than just a shooter, in my opinion. I've seen, if you look at his highlights, or even his stats back this up. I think 40% of his field goals were unassisted. And
he could definitely
60% were assisted, but that's just kind of like the role that Miami also kind of wanted him to be, just because you have Butler, so he definitely was stymied on off. Basically he had his limitations based off of what Miami already had, the personnel. Whereas I think Simmons, and you see this with a lot of players like Harden, we can even group LeBron in there. They need to have the ball in order to be effective. The flaw with Harden is he doesn't know how to essentially function without the ball sometimes.
Just stands at half
court. And I mean, Simmons, that isn't the case because he can be effective down low, I feel like if you give him the ball down there, he could go to work. But I don't know. I feel like Hero, he's one of those players, kind of like a Klay Thompson or a Devin Booker. He's much more versatile offensively. He could play just as well with the ball or off the ball.
Yeah, so I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, his ability to score is definitely better than Ben Simmons. Even in a limited role that he was in for Miami last season, it's not even a debate about that. I just think that Simmons does more for you. Now, the part of the great thing about Hero is that he's on a rookie deal still, and he's obviously 20. So, I mean, to me, you really can't go wrong either way. I mean, to me, if you're going to trade Harden, that will be the worst option, but you kind of have to do that because he's forcing that. So in that case, you look at, what is the best you can get back. But I mean, if you're looking at a deal centered around Ben Simmons or Hero, I don't think you can go wrong either way. I just think that Simmons does more for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could talk myself into either trade, really, honestly. There's nothing that I have against Ben Simmons. It's just, again, offensively, I feel like Hero's a better fit. But like you mentioned, Ben Simmons is obviously a much better overall player so far.
Right. Now, I think, like I said, I think part of the problem is that we don't know, are they planning on keeping John Wall long term, or is it, we're going to keep him for a year, get his value up, and then move him again, like OKC did with Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you brought that point up, but I think Ben Simmons or Herro, I think regardless, having either of those guys, you don't plan for John Wall being here long term. He's not part of their future plans. So even if you had Ben Simmons, who's a ball handler, same with John Wall, I don't think it should go into decision making like, oh, but we have John Wall. Like, I don't think that should affect the outcome of whatever route you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, I do think that Wall and Herro would be a pretty good, tandem because, like you mentioned, Herro can thrive in the catch and shoot. And obviously, John Wall is, a passer, But I definitely, I mean, the Rockets right now are in a really, really weird spot, man, because, we're not used to bringing in players. We don't really bring in players for 1 year and then flip them off. That hasn't been the past regime. But we have a new regime now, so we really don't know kind of what to expect.
Yeah, we're like in limbo right now until this Harden situation gets figured out. And I personally think it's if the season starts and Harden's still on the team, I think we won't really know until about All-Star break we're sticking it through or not. Because I don't know if you heard the past podcast, I said the most likely scenario is we trade him right around the deadline, kind of what the Timberwolves did with Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, which I mean, I think that would suck, man. I really think that Harden's best shot this year at a title is not in Philadelphia. And we know that Brooklyn's not going to happen because they don't have the pieces to trade for him. I mean, I really think that Harden's best shot at a title, this team that we have now, I really think could be the best Rockets team he's ever had because of the fact that, I mean, Christian Woods looks great. We only had one game to go off of, but I mean, him and Harden, that pick and roll was money.
Yeah, it's him and Capella on steroids, basically.
Yeah. I mean, Boogie. We'll see what happens with Boogie. He's had an injury history. His role is not. He's not asked to play as much minutes as he has been asked to in the past. That could help him stay healthy. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, you do still have a Boogie Cousins, who even if he's a shell of the star version of himself, he's still a solid contributor. John Wall appears to have his burst back, whether he's here long term or not. Whether he's the same player he was before the injury or not, he still is a solid set. I think to get you 17, 16 and 7, 17 and 8 around there. Gordon has played fairly well this preseason. Now, Eric Gordon is the wild card. We don't ever know if he's going to go 0 for 10 or 8 for 10.
Yeah. Man, I can't get over that guy. I promise you, if he was not on the Rockets roster, we would have swept OKC.
If he was not on the Rockets, he'd probably be shooting like 45% from three.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
They always thrive when they lose.
I think that's Houston sports in a nutshell. Like, you see a player go to a different team, and then they're just like on roids, and they end up beating you.
Yeah.
Kobe Jones, man.
Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah.
That's immediately who I thought of.
Look, that's a good example. Same with Glover Quinn, too. He goes to the Lions. He becomes a Pro Bowler, all-pro safety.
He was catching picks with one hand. I think his arm was broken that year or something.
Anthony, let me ask you this. So, for Ben Simmons and Herro, what is a player comparison right now for both? And in terms of their ceiling, who do you see them becoming? Like right now or even in the past that we've seen in the NBA? And Naseem, you can weigh in as well.
Let's see. Player comparison.
I already know.
By the way, man, Tyler Herro has been getting some disrespect in terms of player comparisons. Some guy told me he's just an athletic Steve Novak. And yeah. And I've heard athletic JJ Redick. I've heard athletic Steve Novak. I've heard him say like, "Oh, he could just be like Jamal Crawford at the very most."
I would give him like a Klay Thompson, honestly, but it depends on who he's partnered with, of course. Like if he's going to take that second role or if he's going to be the main guy. But if he's a second guy, then I would say like a Klay Thompson type.
I don't know if he'd ever be as great of a shooter as Klay Thompson, and plus he's a much better ball handler and I think playmaker than Klay Thompson. I'm not
Yeah, but
saying
you
that
could
he
use
could be
him like
better
Klay
than Klay
Thompson.
Thompson.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
if that makes sense.
I mean, I think Klay Thompson could be a fair comparison. He's not gonna ever be the defender that Klay Thompson is. I almost want to say. I mean, I'm kind of getting like Ray Allen vibes. Feel like that could be a valid. Now, not saying that he will be one of the greatest shooters ever, but but yeah, I mean,
are you talking about like Sonics, Seattle Supersonics, Ray Allen, or like when he became like essentially like an elite shooter? I don't know if he was an elite shooter with Seattle or not.
Yeah, I feel like Seattle Ray Allen could be the long term upside for Herro. Feel like
Okay.
Or maybe a Klay Thompson who's not as good of a defender.
Yeah. Let me read you a couple of stats for Ray Allen. First three seasons, he was under 40% 3-point shooting. And then essentially he had a period. Oh, no, he was with Milwaukee actually first. I forgot.
Yeah.
And he was around a high 30s, low 40s 3-point shooter with Milwaukee. And I think with Seattle, I think his career is a 40% 3-point shooter. So maybe Ray Allen is actually a pretty decent comparison.
Yeah, and again, I don't know if he'll become like, because Ray Allen is like one of the greatest shooters ever, if not the greatest. I'm not saying I think that will be Herro, but I feel like his game could be, comparable to Ray Allen.
Right. Yeah. Now let's go Ben Simmons. What about that?
I almost think Ben Simmons. I'm tempted to say like a Magic, Magic Johnson. With his skill set, size, fairly good defender, 6'9", 6'10". I think Ben Simmons is like 6'10" actually. Not a great scorer, but steady, 16 to 18 a game. I feel like that would be the upside, long-term upside for Ben Simmons.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with him on that one.
Just a little bit. Actually, I don't know who mentioned Ray Allen first, if it was Naseem or AD, but no, I think Anthony, right?
Yeah.
So what's it called? Just looking at his stats, like with Milwaukee, it's actually pretty similar to what Tyler Herro has done in year one. Like in terms of 3-point shooting, it was almost completely assisted, and in terms of like his 2-point shooting, it was about like 40%. So he was for the majority creating his own twos, and then for 3-point shooting, catch and shoot majority of the time guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess now that I think about it, maybe I'm talking myself into Tyler Herro.
The more you talk about it, man.
Hey, that's why me and this team wanted to bring you onto the show, man. We're trying to make you a Tyler believer.
We're gonna be the first of the Tyler Herro stands in Houston.
It's so funny because I was reading a couple of your tweets. And this was like around the time that I posted the Tyler Herro article. And it was like, dude, a lot of y'all lost y'all's credibility the way you're talking up Tyler Herro. And I'm like, dude, he's totally talking about me.
Well, not just you, man. There are, I feel like people, so first of all, Twitter is always going to be Twitter, but I feel like people have been talking about him like he's like, going to become like Michael Jordan combined with Kevin Durant, and I don't see that upside.
No, I think we know there's like a limit to his cap or to his potential. Honestly, I think I'm just more interested to see where it takes him, and I would love to see it in Houston rather than anywhere else.
Do you think if he comes here, that Jack Harlow might make some more songs about him?
I mean, I hope so.
I think Harlow will be the Travis Scott of Houston if he ends up coming here.
Do you think Travis Scott is gonna, if Harden is moved, will he continue to be our ambassador? Because he likes to hang out with Harden. He goes to the games, all the time.
I think I think Travis Scott's still kind of like a loyalist, so he'll probably like still rep Tyler Hero or Ben Simmons, whoever's here.
Yeah.
But I think he'll still feel some tie with some ties with what's it called, James Harden. But if Harden goes to Philly, he has Meek Mills now. So.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It'll be like a Meek Mill situation. I feel like Meek Mill obviously loves Harden, but I mean he's gonna rep Philly.
So do you guys think that Harden will actually get traded this year?
I think so.
I'll let you go first. Yeah. Mine again. I think if it's gonna happen, which I do think it's gonna happen around the trade deadline, I think we're gonna give it a shot for the first half of the season and just see how it goes. And if it's not looking good, like we're not gonna go anywhere deep in the playoffs, like just ship it.
Anthony, so now here's in terms of that question. In terms of like the best return value for Harden, at what point in time would Houston probably get the best value? Like at what point in season? Do they make the deal now? Do they do it some way midway in the season? Do they wait for a whole season? Because I'm of the belief that like the sooner the better, just because like he becomes a 1-year rental if we wait it out. And that obviously increases teams' risk of, trading for him.
Yeah, I mean, so I am really curious if he has had any second thoughts at all after finally being able to play. Because, I mean, the game that he played, we didn't even have John Wall or Boogie Cousins. It was really just him, Wood, of course, obviously Tucker, Gordon. And, I mean, I think part of the intrigue with the idea of waiting to the trade deadline is that, a team that might be expected to do well might get off to a bad start and decide, hey, we're willing to go all in on Harden, and maybe players that we're not even discussing now might then become available. What I think will suck is that if that happens, we're going to get reports about Harden wanting out or Harden's not, changed his mind like every week from Woj, especially. Tim McMahon likes to, he likes to give us, bad news all the time, it seems like.
Yeah, I definitely do think it would be the most stressful half season if it goes on until the deadline. Because, like you said, we're just going to hear every week, Harden wants out, this deal's coming up, blah, blah, blah.
And then I'm really curious.
And I think
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and I think, honestly, like, maybe Rockets management understands that. Like, they don't want this to go on. They know that they got a new head coach, and, they probably don't want this to be a distraction. So I think that's probably the reason why they would want to trade him sooner than later. We've heard obviously conflicting reports with Woj, I think, where he said first that the Rockets would rather sooner than later, and then something about like, Raphael Stone said earlier, we're willing to get uncomfortable. So we really don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, the part of the concern that I have if we do decide to keep him is he going to really be committed? Because, man, I don't like seeing a dude out turning up, every week now. He's out. Even though the latest one was Turkey Leg Hut, it's not the same thing as him going to a strip club making it rain. But I just don't, it's obviously a different culture now. The past culture we've seen that they let him do whatever he wanted. He was able to go to Vegas on off days and go party, which granted, he's off work essentially. So I get it a little bit, but at the same time, I mean, I like to see you grinding with your teammates, right? Working with the teammates, building chemistry off the court, but at the same token, I mean, if he's not going to be bought in, like really committed, then at that point, I'd say it's not really fair to Steven Silas or the current group, and I think at that point, then you kind of really got to say, okay, let's get this guy out of here.
Yeah, he reminds me of me basically, where or like at my other jobs where I would just just go through the motions. I'm here till I clock out, and then forget you guys. I'm going to do my thing, man. And that's exactly what he's doing now.
Yeah, man. I mean, at a certain point, I would wonder, when does he realize that for this team with him to really make a push, he has to be fully bought in and fully committed? Or does he say, I don't want to be here anyway, so I don't care if we win with me on this team?
That's another thing we don't know what he's thinking at this point. He keeps saying he's locked in at practice, and then he's out with Lil Baby or whatever that guy's name is. Or this guy literally rented a private jet. I don't know if you guys saw it, to go party on off days. Like, what is going on, dude?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's crazy is they said the Rockets allowed that. They knew that.
Yeah, and that just makes it even worse for as a Rockets fan. Just watching it.
Don't you think that article by Tim McMahon is a little bit blown out of proportion? Like, I feel like it would probably be a little bit more common for superstars who have the keys to the franchise to do whatever the heck they want to do. I mean, like,
yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, superstars definitely. If you have there's really only probably, you think about it, it's probably only like 5 legit superstars, actual superstars, not all stars, but like a legit superstar player. So those are so few and far between. Maybe even if you say there's 10 of them, there's still very few of them in the league. So if you have one of those on your team, they likely have privileges. They likely can do stuff like that. I mean, LeBron James is basically a coach and general manager of wherever he goes.
Yeah.
He's of the year.
Yeah. I mean, he basically has his own agency now. Clutch Sports is basically, basically him, and he can get guys to join his team like Montrezl Harrell and take less money just to play with him. So I mean, superstar players definitely are going to have those perks, privileges, benefits. I think the Rockets. I mean, I do think that Tim McMahon, that piece, he's become, in my opinion, pro Tillman Fertitta because of how he's like bashed Harden through all his articles. He said that Daryl Morey quit on the Rockets, and I think he did quit on the Rockets. But the fact that he is saying these type of articles, he's become like pro Tillman almost. So you're right in the sense that the article, he kind of poured it on a little thick. It is a bit of an exaggeration. It's not like any other player. I mean, we just saw Kawhi Leonard did the same thing. He was in San Diego, I read, on game days. He would fly out to the team, or he wouldn't practice. If he didn't want to train, they wouldn't practice. So it's the same thing.
Yeah. I guess it's just blown out of proportion because it's Harden at the end of the day and he wants out.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right, guys. I do want to wrap this up soon, but one last question. Since we got Anthony here, Naseem and I spoke about it in the past, but okay. So best case scenario, the highest ceiling for the Rockets, whether it's Harden stays or if you're leaning more likely towards him getting traded, where do you see this team at its peak? What can they accomplish? And what do you think is the worst case scenario that can happen, regardless if Harden's here or if he gets traded? Like, give me your take.
So I think if Harden stays for the full season with this group, I think you have a legitimate argument for Western Conference Finals. I think that you would still be running up against the Lakers, who I do think got better, which is really kind of scary.
Yeah.
But I think the Rockets team this year is definitely better than the team we had last year, my opinion. So I think
what about 17-18?
What's that?
What about 2017, 2018 with CP, his first year?
I mean, we haven't even played a game in the regular season.
I mean, off the top, I feel like we've got more depth than we had that year. That year, we really relied on Harden and CP3 to carry the way like the whole season. Now we had great wing depth though with Ariza, great defender. I know he didn't shoot well in a Warriors series, but Ariza, Tucker, and Bamute, we had really good depth on the wing position. I think I think about our wings that we have now. We've got still obviously Tucker, obviously still Harden, Jayshawn Tate. He's kind of promising prospect. I think our wings we had back then were better, but I think our overall roster, we did not have a Christian Wood in our team that year. And I think that Christian Wood obviously can be a much better Clint Capella, and you also have a Boogie. We didn't have anyone in that role. So I honestly, I think that this team could be better than that team. Like you said, we haven't played a game yet. A lot of it depends on how Steven Silas is able to develop, because this is his first year coaching, right? Obviously, when we had that year, D'Antoni had already been a coach of the year before Yeah, before that. So we'll see. I think it comes down to, as far as how far we go versus that team, it comes down to, are the Lakers better than the Warriors were that year? I think that's really what it comes down to, because they were our thorn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My biggest concern with the Lakers this year, and I brought it up before, is they have the shortest offseason and pretty much the oldest superstar, right? So Anthony Davis and LeBron James are both going to have to take lots of games off, I'm assuming, and that's just going to affect their seeding. So I'm not sure they're going to get that first seed. And I also think that kind of messes with the Rockets in terms of avoiding them until the Western Conference Finals, because you could end up meeting them first round or even second round. So it really just depends on the seeding that the Lakers get, because I don't see them taking first seed with how many rest games LeBron and AD are going to need.
Yeah, and then as far as if we don't have Harden, if we trade Harden, let's just say we get Herro or Simmons, which is really kind of, it's like what it's come down to, either Miami or Philly. Unless, of course, unless like another team comes in here, once the season starts and they want to go all in on Harden. But I mean, if assuming that we either get Herro or Simmons, I think we are probably going to be a second round exit.
Really? That's pretty high, actually.
What do you think? You think first round?
If we get, I will say this: if we get Simmons, I think we probably have more success this year. If we get Herro, I think we might. We could be like a 7 seed or an 8 seed, but I'm arguing for Herro in terms of the long term. That's where I see his value. But yeah. I think Simmons second round, I could see that happening. Like if we end up like surpassing expectations, getting a 4 spot or a 5 spot, and we end up facing Utah or Phoenix. Even though Phoenix got scarier and Utah, they seem strong in the regular season, but they haven't really lived up to their expectation in the playoffs. But I could see us definitely pulling out a first-round win with Simmons right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think. Now, as far as worst-case scenario, the worst-case scenario is that Harden is pulling an AD, and he's like, Rockets say, we're not going to trade you. And he says, I'm hurt. I can't play tonight because I'll have an injury, or they do the BS of playing him for like 15 minutes in a game, and we miss the playoffs. That would be the worst case scenario, that we miss the playoffs because we're deciding to hold on to him while he decides, I'm going to get back at you guys and say I'm injured.
Yeah. That was going to be my scenario as well, because then you just wasted a season. Can't trade Harden and his value's down. So at that point, you're basically losing him for nothing.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot left to happen. Obviously, the season's coming up next week. I feel like you and us three, we could probably talk Rockets forever, man. But
yeah, this was fun, man. I enjoyed this.
Yeah, we did too. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Yeah, we should do it again sometime, man. This is fun.
For sure.
Absolutely, man. And just for the audience, for you guys listening, make sure you guys go follow Anthony Duckett. It's at @_DUCKETT. Follow the guy. He has some pretty good basketball takes and knowledgeable guy.
Appreciate that, guys.
Anthony, yeah, definitely. Thank you again for agreeing to come on this podcast, and we'll definitely have you on in the future.
Let's do it. I'd love to.
Yes,
awesome.
All right,
all right, man. We'll go ahead and wrap it up here shortly. So we appreciate you guys for tuning in. And until next week, we'll be coming back with another episode of Hoop MCs. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Later.
Trauma bonds, got close off of battle scars. Equal pain, so we think it's equal games. Same team, but it's different hearts. Same goals, but it's different shots. Thought we was winning the same. Turns out you were just running me game. Should've known, but I couldn't guess it. It's a damn shame.